lot of people have asked, Joy, can we know if there's just one person for us? And I know this is something that I've had to try and figure out. Not now, Walter. I want to talk about us, because I think a lot of us think very, we have Western minds, we want to think very linearly, we want to have a yes or a no answer. And I was recently in this class studying Isaiah, and the teacher was talking about one system of thought, which is, being in a continuum. And that sometimes you can have these things that are opposing ideas on either end of the continuum, which is called an antinomy, where they both really make a lot of sense, and you can get stuck there because they both make sense, they're both in Scripture, but they kind of contradict each other. And so my challenge is to us is, why are we asking for a yes or no, or can we get beyond the yes or a no? I am very much on the side of being logical and wanting a yes or no answer, and I look at Scripture and I see what Paul and Jesus are talking about. They're talking about what do widows do and what happens after divorce. And Paul and Jesus address these things, so numerically we can go, yeah, there could possibly be more than one person. But then we also need to step back and go, but God talks about marriage as being a covenant bond, and I would encourage you to get into Scripture and figure out what these covenants mean. I'm still unpacking it for myself, but the Bible talks about marriage as a covenant bond and being really something that needs to be taken really seriously. And if you look at the Lord and what He does with His covenants, they're things that He never breaks, they're promises He gives to us, and they're a reflection of His bigger story that's going on. And so I believe is when we enter into this covenant bond of marriage, we're not just doing something fun, we're actually reflecting and we're being a part of His bigger story, and it's something that we need to take really serious. So when you marry, it should feel like that person is the one. Do you see me as the one, or are you just having fun in this? It's been 3 years. Really? Okay. One of the reasons that I think that the covenant bond is so important, that I can actually see, I don't understand every reason of why God takes a covenant bond so seriously, but what I've seen in my own life is when I went through that breakup that I talk about in a video on my site called My Story. I just share how I was in love with a man, I wanted to marry him, and that broke apart. And a couple years later, someone was trying to set me up on a blind date, and I remember in the middle of the night, the day before the date, I just woke up and I started crying, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I already gave my heart away. This isn't natural. We're not supposed to do this more than once. And I think that's a reflection of the fact that we do live in brokenness. We live in a broken world, and yet we have this longing for perfection, this longing for what I believe is heaven. And I think we see this in people who are believers and then people who are not. You see this in the secular society. There's some design within us that makes us want to have one person. You even see this in the show Friends, like Phoebe. She finds out that lobsters mate for life, and she's like, I want to find my lobster. Even in the midst of a show where they're sleeping with more than one person, like, she knew innately that she wanted to end up with one person. Or we have, movies and books, and we use this terminology saying, oh, did it have a happy ending? Or, oh no, it didn't have a happy ending. Somehow there's this general consensus that we know what a happy ending in a movie meant. And I think that that's the people end up together because we have a longing for that, because I believe God designed us that way. And so these are the things that I would challenge you to focus on, more than trying to theologically figure out is there a one or is there not a one, or how can we know? Just going, what does God really care about? What is God calling me to do? And it's something my dad always says to me. He goes, Joy, stop focusing so much on trying to find the one, but focus on being the one. And that's my challenge to you right now as you're in the middle of trying to assess these questions. What are you doing to become the one for somebody someday?
On the next Ask Joy, the true degree of Joy's desperation becomes painfully apparent.
Are you my lobster? Oh, Walter.